Hey everyone, my name is Rooster. Welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, I'll have a match against Key Pals, which is going to be rather exciting and showcase the power of Wraith, specifically its LANDCRUISER tech that can get picked up later on in the game. Now, I picked my favorite specialist, Elite, although I have to admit I have had a lot of trouble with it recently. Some games go just fine, but then some games are just an absolute nightmare, and I don't really know why that is. But yeah, in this one, I decided to pick it still. It's not a bad opener whatsoever. We get, of course, the low-level chaff, which is nice. We get Mustangs, which will help out with the chaff clear, and this way I can go for some vortexes on round 1 because I'm up against hounds and sabers. My opponent is an amplify specialist and is going to be pushing on the right side of the board. As for myself, I mean, I do have a lot of options here. I think either side of the board is pushable. You know, left side there's only that wall, right side there's only a small building. I could try and use this wall to my advantage by pushing on the left, and it looks like that is what I'm trying to do, although it seems like I was somewhat unsure here what I wanted. I think I undo because I forgot to sell a building, but we are going to go Vortex in the end, and we are going to be setting up on the left side of the field. So it's going to be a crossfire. Double crawler here for my opponent. I have to say I have liked Vortex quite a bit early on, especially on the Elite. It is a very powerful unit this early on at level 2. Extremely tanky, hard to deal with, and honestly really high DPS as well. Plus fast attack rate, so it does well into both, you know, bigger units, something like Saber, as the smaller stuff like Hound and even Void Eye. So yeah, going to use my Mustangs as my chaff clear here. I know I'm up against, you know, at most 2 crawlers on round 1, so I should be just fine. And I have got the full chaff clear tech bar here with both high explosive and cutting rounds on the bar. Chunga's gonna do a pretty good job. I am the one who gets the debuff first. Not sure that's going to do too much here though, because second debuff usually slightly better, although what really matters is whether or not you get the second debuff on your side of the field. Well, I guess the third debuff in terms of overall game state here. It looks like we will get it. My opponent won't. There is the small turret there, which will help out taking care of some of my crawlers, but luckily I have enough here to be able to get a debuff. 9 seconds in my favor, and now we are properly battling, so that was the most influential one for sure. And while the Sabers are trying to fight back, they were debuffed for a little bit of that, so I actually do manage to win. The Sabers don't kill any of the Vortexes, which is helpful because they give away a lot of experience at level 2. It puts me in a good spot here very early on in the match. I have 5,500 hit points to my name as well. I mean, that still is you know, one of the nice benefits of being Elite Spec, very high hit point starters. And on round number 2, not too much here. I mean, Improved Overlord is a good card, although I usually don't like it as much this early because it's very hard to get into. For me, on Elite Spec, I don't think it's pickable, way too expensive to go for. But in general, if you're not Elite, it also tends to be a little bit early. If you're not Aerial Spec, you know, you're not going to be able to get into an Improved Overlord for 2 rounds. At the very earliest, so it does kind of telegraph what you want to do. Key Pals is going to go for it here. Perhaps the reason being that Elite can struggle against Giants, and especially this improved variant is very, very good late game. And I decided to go for the redeploy to move around my units because I thought, well, I'm not sure I have too much pressure moving in the long run. With the vortexes, my opponent could just end up leveling that tower a bunch. Maybe I just want to, you know, try and go for more of a headbutt here, move my units around. If my opponent ends up leveling that tower a lot, then they kind of waste resources, and I can, you know, take away my deployments and put them on the map or on the side of the map where they will actually do something, which is kind of important because deployments on Elite are, you know, a very valuable commodity. Sometimes you can get in trouble with that, so being able to move around a Mustang here, buying another Vortex, getting that insta-lock onto the enemy Saber and instantly taking it out is going to be very nice. Of course, I do end up losing the right side. There's just too many deployments, but as I mentioned, there is this tower level already, and it's kind of telling me, okay, I probably want to like move around my units here and just don't commit too many of my units into taking down that tower, especially when it's already being leveled on round 2. Right side tower will fall. This time around, though, looks like my opponent will get a second debuff. I will too, but we'll have to see who gets the better timing. Vortexes are working away at the enemy hounds. If I manage to get rid of those, then the little bit of chaff I have should be very useful. Thankfully, my vortexes do manage to lock onto the Sabertooth and take it out, and that should pretty much be the only units that can take down the vortexes. Although I say that, there's a few more crawlers alive than I thought there'd be, so in the end it actually will just be the hounds and the crawlers to get a victory. I don't take a lot of damage, but on Elite you also have to factor in that your opponents might get a lot of experience just off of winning a round, even if marginally. Killing your units will, I mean, inevitably mean that their units level up a lot quicker. Here though, not too bad. Only one hound level. So far, I would say the early game is fine. The real problems with Elite are when you're down tempo, you know, from the get-go. And by down tempo, I mean you're losing like really hard. Your opponent gets more levels than you can get, even though you're buying level 2 units. That's when you're in trouble, but that's not the case here. We've gotten off to a pretty decent start. Round number 3, Phoenix shows up. I do need some proper DPS and ideally some air DPS. So I'm going to go for that Phoenix. The Sledgehammer here is not bad though. Whatsoever. Very good into Hound to stall, very good into Saber to stall as well, and of course 2 deployments at level 1 is especially good on Elite because it's not something that I can easily get my hands on. Well, level 1 units I can't, but deployments again, right, it costs a lot of money this early, so that would have been a fine pick as well. I just kind of want to make use of the DPS and the redeploy, which allows me to go for these type of aggressive plays where I expect my opponent to answer this forward positioning on the Vortex, probably with something like a Crawler, and I get to now attack over here with this Phoenix Instalock on the enemy Saber, which should help out. I do go for a missile as well, kind of hoping to hit the Crawlers and the Hound, but potentially also taking care of a Crawler if it happens to show up. But you can see that with the aggressive positioning, we instantly take out that Saber. Opponent also goes for Phoenix, sensible move. It's just very good to have this early on. Probably the most efficient DPS unit you can gain that also is able to shoot up. And you can see that despite, you know, that aggressive positioning on my end, it's pretty even here. And my opponent even manages to take down my Phoenixes with his potentially getting a level 3 Phoenix before I do. And that is a scary unit this early on during any game, really. Level 3 Phoenix just, it one-shots pretty much anything. Very, very quick to kill anything that's in front of it, and that can cause trouble. It will level up here, but I managed to get another small round victory with my left side managing to keep on winning. Round number 4, Efficient Light shows up. My opponent goes for it. I decide to skip. Main reason is because I felt like I really needed the money here. It's an expensive card, and I wanted to get some more expensive units. In the long run, it usually is a good card for Elite because you're more prone to buying small units rather than giants. But yeah, I just made the executive decision here that it was going to make it really awkward for me this round and the next to get techs, to get, you know, things like the Wraith that I went for. And I just don't want to be in that position and potentially, you know, fall behind in the mid game. Instead, I go for the Amplifying Core, which is also a great item for my Wraith. And that was the chaff clearing of choice here. I could also have tried to go for something like Mustang with high explosive and culling rounds, but into enemy hounds and this many crawlers, and even, you know, the Mustangs in the back here that are being added, I think Wraith is hard to not pick. It's the king of headbutts for a good reason, has been for a long time, and at level 2 its DPS also starts getting rather serious. So, you know, even the level 1 Sabers here, I'd say, aren't safe against the Flying Donut. Chaff clear getting better, and because I skipped the Efficient Light, I managed to afford another Wraith as well as range on them, and that should mean that I do win here in spite of my opponent having this very scary Phoenix. It's not able to lock onto the important targets quite on time. Some chaff clear issues, I guess, on my opponent's side, and I managed to get a good round win. Now, of course, that is kind of expected. My opponent went for a greedy kind of long-term card with the Efficient Light. They also potentially wasted a bit of money onto Improved Overlord because it's not, you know, sure whether they want to go into it. And yeah, I have to prove that my mid game here is stronger because I simply have more resources available. Jump drive on Phoenix. Marksman here gets picked up from my opponent from the unit drop. A little bit painful because I did just, commit into Wraith. And triple deploy is always nice to get. But at the very least, I already have range enhancement. So I shouldn't be too far off of, being able to click LANDCRUISER. I go for the Marksman as well. There was nothing in here that I really wanted. Stormcaller in a headbutt makes little sense. Sandworm could be okay as, some frontline option. But, the Marksman, I do run Assault mode. I get 3 deployments of them, so I can kind of just, cover a greater area rather than having one Sandworm into, one little spot on the map. Opponent here goes for the Chaff Mustang tech bar. High explosive, cunning round. That would have been an option for me as well. But we're going to see it in action here into Wraith and, see how powerful it really is. The Phoenix with Jump Drive shows up on my flank. I will get debuffed there. I have been a bit greedy in terms of defending, or rather not defending my left side, but I feel like sometimes that's a risk you have to take in these type of scenarios. Being greedy can give you really big round wins, and if you get punished, then so be it. I did add a lot of resources on the right side, so even with the debuff here, looks like we're still going to do somewhat fine. But yeah, now the Marksman will manage to lock on. I will have to see whether or not I can get close enough to the Marksman to take them out. Looks like that may not be the case. One Wraith goes down, the other is still alive, but it will get locked onto. All of the Marksmen have been killed, but the Phoenix is still alive, and that will be the round. Not a massive loss. To be honest, I'm pretty happy with that, considering I got debuffed for 9 seconds. And yeah, now I'll have to deal with that adequately. Could just add something like a Wasp back there, which looks like will be the thing I go for. Double blue Wasp, one to defend this side, one to defend that side. Coincidentally, it also will just kind of arrive late to perhaps be able to save my Wraith. I have enough money here to be able to go for 8-gun floating artillery array, which is usually going to be what you go for on Wraith in 90% of your games. Range into 8-gun and then eventually LANDCRUISER. I would only go LANDCRUISER as like your first, but probably more realistically second tech after range if you're playing standard with Wraith, or if you really feel like you have to because your Wraith keep dying. But usually you can kind of stall them dying by building, more tanks in front, more crawlers, more air chaff like the Wasps, and, buying them some time. 8-gun is just such a good DPS boost and chaff clear boost that you want to get it as early as possible. And with the levels and the item here, I mean, it's, it packs a punch. Top on damage and top on chaff clear, really showcasing the power of Wraith. Round number 6, advanced power system here shows up. I decide to go for it. I don't think it's mandatory because we are in a headbutt, but there is some stuff happening here on the left side of the field. And yeah, but you could justify just skipping it for the money in the headbutt. At least in the first part of it, you don't move a lot and you kind of instantly engage with the enemy. Opponent goes for more Phoenixes here, elite recruited. And, well, they did go for jump drive, so going for range and overload, that type of thing, will be more expensive for them. Right now, it looks like we're doing kind of fine. Opponent also went for a shield, which we managed to take down. We'll have to see if I manage to win here. Left side did sadly lose. Pretty bad tower timing there, as the Marksman is still locked onto my Wraith. Won't quite be able to take it down, though. The amplifying core here helping out massively. We get a really nice tower timing. I think that should be enough to get the round victory and another level on the Wraith. Kind of crazy how much it's been doing and how often it's been leveling, but it just often is the last thing left alive. Round number 7, we see a red spell. We're starting to get to the point of the game where I feel like red spells in general are just worth picking, and Javelin especially is just very cheap. I may even get to see it again, 3-round cooldown. I'm still above 5k hit points at this stage of the game, so if my opponent somehow starts stabilizing and I take some damage, it's not unheard of that I might see the Javelin again and we go to round 11. Here I have good targets to hit, taking care of those Marksmen. As we can see, they did over 40,000 damage last round, so me getting rid of those seems like a decent option. Key Pals, just gonna go for advanced shield device, which is not bad either, but it does mean that they don't have the Javelin, and my Wraith will be safe. Of course, hard to hit. This Wraith doesn't even die to the Javelin, and I do have redeploy to be able to move around a bit. And I think that's exactly what I do. I move one of my Wraith here, perhaps on the left side, or perhaps it was there already. I didn't quite pay attention. But yeah, Javelin will land. 2 marksmen are going to be dead. And with that, I think I should be firmly in the lead. And of course, even though we took Javelin, my opponent went for 2 barriers, which if I manage to take them down, you know, economically speaking, I'm going to be even after taking up that spell. Here, though, kind of looks like they might get to keep one of their barriers, as the Phoenixes seem to do good enough of a job of taking down my Wraith. And I was a bit surprised losing this. I think the main problem is that I just don't have enough Wraith in the same spot. And so I couldn't chaff clear fast enough. So that was, you know, the thing I was going to go for next. Just grabbing more Wraith, maybe even up to 4, which is exactly what we do. 2 more level 2 Wraith on that right side to try and punch through this quicker. Because realistically speaking, high level Wraith with double tech should easily be able to take this down. It's only small units, Mustang, Crawler, Marksman, Hound, Phoenix, you know, nothing tanky. So the Wraith should just be the correct move. More tanks could be good as well, but here I wasn't too sure what I would need to get. Steel balls, I guess, could be an option. Sledgehammer as well, although it is a bit less common considering Wraith tends to be the faster unit. Or well, it just simply is the faster unit. More Mustangs getting picked up here. I do have double attack enhancement. I am loaning here for temp range and temp speed. I want to try and close out the game at this point kind of as fast as possible, because of course that efficient light manufacturing is starting to kick in, and I might have some trouble, you know, to make up for the value that I don't have and my opponent is gaining. As a saving grace or a silver lining, you know, elite spec is also an econ spec. I don't have to press the elite recruitment button every round, so as long as the levels are useful, that will help. But ideally, you know, I don't let this go out of control for too long. Left side getting attacked. I will go for a tower level. Not quite convinced that the left side here will be enough, and it does get reinforced by my opponent adding even more Mustangs and adding another Phoenix. But the real thing is, can I beat the right side? Looks like at the very least I am now able to kill that shield much faster, but this round, of course, the marksmen that I killed with the Javelin are still alive, so I am still struggling a little bit. Only the big Wraith is alive, and it will go down as well. And now I'm starting to think, well, maybe it's time for LANDCRUISER. It seems like the marksmen are just doing too good of a job. It seems like maybe I have to advance a little bit too much, even in this headbutt scenario. So going to the ground, getting that bonus range should be beneficial. I think the 0.6 attack interval reduction at this stage doesn't matter much. I already have so many Wraith. I probably cover the chaff clearing, you know, by more than enough of a margin to be able to tank that and gain all of the benefits from LANDCRUISER. Round number 9, we do get unit reinforcements. Again, nothing too interesting in here. I was a little bit afraid, though, of the Void Eyes, which are a problem for Wraith, at least for one round in most games, because they have access to EMP armor, and, well, Wraith kind of just shoots wildly in all directions, trying to hit as many targets as possible, and, well, it often means that it will guaranteed hit an EMP Void Eye and then lose all of its techs, which it is very reliant on to perform. Interestingly here, it doesn't get picked up. Keepal's just going for a Rhino. I did have a missile back there, so it will at least, you know, slow down everything. I do indeed go for LANDCRUISER. I add a Rhino myself. Once again, I'm not too interested in the unit drop, so I'm just going to pick and sell across 2 turns. And I am going to start building some Mustangs of my own, redeploying them backwards because I was expecting my opponent to go for a range and eventually launcher overload, which they do have on the bar. And once they click launcher overload, AA Mustang becomes extremely good because the Phoenixes gain less range and they tend to get sniped by that aerial specialization. Crawler all the way in the back to kind of just pull away my opponent's carries for a bit, buy more time for my Wraith, and well, let's see how things go. I am loaning here. My opponent isn't, but they are, you know, using quite a few resources again on barriers, which I am breaking. I might end up losing this round, but, you know, that is a little bit of a good thing, that at the very least I'm taking away temporary resources from them that they don't get to use across multiple rounds. I do lose this round pretty horribly, though, with all of the Phoenixes now having range and even more being added. But, you know, I knew this was coming. I did expect more Phoenixes with techs to be a thing. And that's why we went into Mustang. I didn't have the money to go for even more and go aerial specialization, but I should have that money now. And well, there it is. Again, lone temp range, temp speed. I am going to sell my Rhino because it doesn't do much against the high level Phoenixes. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I'm also going to redeploy my Wraith backwards. It should be able to deal with this Rhino if it stays in place, considering how high level it is. And yeah, more Mustangs is going to be, you know, the name of the game. EMP got picked up here. Very powerful spell. My opponent likely will shield. I have to do the same. Losing my techs on my Wraith would be very, very bad. But, you know, if I can chunk down the enemy shields a little bit, that would be nice. I'm going to go for Subterranean Blitz on the crawlers here as well. I have yet to go into double defense enhancement. But I think Subterranean Blitz here is rather useful. Now, the thing I have to keep in mind is that currently level 2 Mustang, you know, will have a execution of 520 hit points. If I look at my crawlers, they're at 604, but of course the first shot will also deal damage. So I think the level 2 Mustangs here with 41 damage per shot aren't quite able to one-shot level 2 Subterranean Blitz crawlers, but the level 3 Mustangs, well, they're getting up to 720 execution damage, which would be enough. And with the high explosive also dealing damage, that's basically going to mean that they don't even need, you know, to damage the crawler. The execution damage is just enough to kill full health level 2 Subterranean Blitz crawlers, which is going to be a little bit painful and probably matter in the long run. That being said, you know, I am adding more and more Mustangs myself, and as you can see, they are locking onto the enemy Phoenixes pretty rapidly as launcher overload did get clicked, reducing the range of the Phoenix, making sure that they are further forward, allowing my Mustangs to lock onto them earlier. And so I managed to get a good round win in, and now we're equal again. You know, I was bleeding for a couple of rounds there, but we do get to round 11, and as I mentioned, we see Orbital Javelin again, even though it was picked up relatively late into this game. But yeah, it's a game where both of us aren't really playing Giants. I was very healthy early on. I also had, you know, a decent amount of tempo on my side. So the game ends up going to round 11 at the very least. I'm going to Javelin the left side here because I thought maybe my opponent would try and move back these marksmen. Although I would say the marksmen actually haven't been doing anything. Kind of that is the power of LANDCRUISER, right? They went from dealing 40, 50k damage, if not more, a round to dealing basically nothing because the aerial tech is now completely useless. But yeah, the left side here has been causing a little bit of trouble, so I thought, well, maybe he's not going to be moving all of his Phoenixes because it is a lot of micromanaging. And just getting a little bit of value with the Javelin already should put me in a good spot. Now, with how convincingly I won last round, I actually did expect the Void Eye to show up this round because it felt like pretty much the only way in which my opponent could win. And you can see that I am buying the Farseers there, but I realize, oh, I might have left this too late. I don't want to undo the entire round. I don't have enough money to go double Farseer Photon Coating without going all the way back. Let's just call the bluff here and go for something else. But you can see that I'm floating a lot of money, and I just end up going crawlers with another tower level here. Definitely not a good round. And then I see the electromagnetic armor and energy shield improved Void Eyes on the other side of the board, and I just sit there like, oh, why did I not just go for the Farseer play? I knew it was coming, because it is such a powerful thing against Wraith, at least for one round as a gut shot, and you can see the round goes completely different this time. My Wraith really are suffering. The one on the left at the very least is doing okay. Hopefully it'll be able to clean up at least a little bit. But yeah, 1873 hit points. Is it gonna be enough to survive? Looks like it will be, but 190 hit points is cutting it very close. Definitely should have gone for the preemptive photon there, as really my board didn't need much else. And yeah, I mean, round number 12, thankfully we get there, and this time I will go for the Farseers with the photon coating. It's enough here because all of my units are ground-based, so the Farseer will cover them all. If you're playing aerial Wraith without the LANDCRUISER, then the only thing that works is Photon Coating Overlord, as that is the only Photon Coating tech that is able to cover air units as well. But here the Farseers will be plenty. And I guess the benefit too is that the Farseers kind of help out against armored air units. Although I will say at level 3 Mustang with the aerial specialization bonus, with double attack enhancement, even I think level 2 armored Phantom Rays won't really do too much. So it's not that big a concern. And yeah, I don't know what my opponent here is going to do or should do. But yeah, let's see if the photon coating kind of brings us back into the driver's seat. We are going to see Phantom Rays with armor enhancement, so I guess we get to test my theory. But yeah, this is blocking 120 damage. My Mustangs already, without the AA bonus, are at 146. And then on top of that, we're going to get 90% boost when they're shooting at the Phantom. So yeah, level 2 Mustang with all of these techs and the attack boosts should just be enough. And then on top of that, of course, we have Farseer, which is a pretty solid unit against those type of aerial mechs as well. Here we go, round number 12. Will it be the final one? If my opponent wins the round, it most certainly will be. If I win, we'll have to see if I can deal 1600 damage or not. This time, though, we're doing a lot better. The Void Eyes are not going to be sending my Wraith back into the air with no techs. And yeah, you can see the Wraith here are doing a great job. Mustangs locking on, also doubling down as chaff against the enemy Phoenixes, which is very helpful. Left side winning, right side winning. And when we do the tally at the end of round 12, it will be just enough to get the victory. Very, very close game there. Not gonna lie, I was kind of kicking myself on round 11 for not going for the Farseer play. Sometimes it is kind of tricky to go for this, and improved Void Eye, or a Void Eye with electromagnetic armor is just, yeah, a really big gamble to try and counter if you're not certain it's going to show up. But here I felt like all of my bases were covered, and it was kind of the only play my opponent could make to really, like, you know, have a big gut shot attempt. So I should have gone for that. Now, what could my opponent have done on the final round? Is there anything they could have done? And it actually turns out that yes, there was. Now, I will say this is extremely tricky, and I have to thank KeyPals for showing this to me, but it involves some, yeah, tricky positioning. If you get it wrong, you will end up losing. So I'll try and see if I can actually get it right. Let's sell one of our Phoenixes here. Let's go, of course, for temp range, temp speed. I do want to go for double barrier because, of course, they're advanced, kind of protect my backline units. And then what we're going to be going for is hackers, elite recruited, with a range and enhanced control. And the idea here is that if we can take over the enemy Wraith, that is going to be extremely good, right? There's also some vortexes in there with emergency armor. There's some assault mode marksmen in there. If we can take those, we're buying ourselves a lot of time. What I do want is the levels on the Mustangs. Again, level 3 means that we can now one-shot the subterranean blitz level 2 crawlers, which of course makes a massive difference. And then I'm definitely going to want to missile every single crawler. Even if my opponent puts down shields, I think it is worth risking this this late into the game, because if you can get rid of the chaff, you know, even on one of these sides, that just makes all the difference. And then aside from that, I guess we just want to take these Phoenix levels to have a little bit more DPS. Let's see how this goes. Missiles also being used by my opponents. I will lose a Mustang there on that side of the field. But I take over a Vortex on that left side, which actually triggers the emergency armor for me, buying myself even more time. I take over a Wraith on that side of the board as well, which makes all of these Wraith now turn. Starting to hack another one. Can I hack a third? Not quite, it seems like. It's going to be extremely close. Can I hack a Farseer? I can do that. And actually, I managed to get a victory. Only a very minor one, though. And 123, weirdly enough, would not have been, you know, the amount of damage required to take me out. There are ways to get bigger wins. You can get up to, I think, 800-900 damage, but it all really depends on how the hackers are hacking, which again is going to be fully dependent on where they are positioned. If I change the positioning slightly, that will affect the way that things target, and the whole round will be slightly different. And of course, if you just take down or take over one more Wraith at full health, you know, it makes a massive difference in the outcome. But this is pretty much the only way to win. There is maybe some type of mountain play in there as well, as my board is relatively low damage, but KeyPals wasn't running it, so there's no way for me to test that. Either way, if you like this video, please leave a thumbs up, leave down in the comments below what you thought about it, and whether or not you've played games like this. Have you been using Wraith, especially against the hounds that have been very popular lately? I think it is a very powerful unit, and very, very powerful late game if you can get to LANDCRUISER. Kind of, countering any aerial specialization techs. Let me know. If you want to stay up to date with my latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.